And welcome back to the program. I want to welcome Dr. John Hovhanessian from Harvard Eye Associates. And we're going to be talking about cataracts. It's Cataracts Awareness Month in June. Who knew? I'm sure you did.
Yes, I did. We're aware of cataracts all year long.
Yes, but it's a good time to kind of especially talk about some of the risk factors, which one of them, which I didn't know, was long exposure to sun and heat.
Yes. A lot of different risk factors for cataracts. So cataract, of course, is a clouding of the internal lens inside the eye. And of course, the biggest risk factor is the biggest risk factor for everything, and that's birthdays.
The more you get,
we're never going to escape the birthdays. The more you have, the more problems you tend to have. But just like graying of the hair, just like losing the hair, there's a gradual cloudiness that happens in the lens of the eye as we get older, but some things do make it happen faster, do worsen it a little bit.
Right, because some folks, they get them very early on in life, and some get them very later on in life, but it seems like it's going to happen to all of us at some point, right? It's just kind of inevitability.
Yeah, if we live long enough, we're going to get some cataract, and even in our 40s, we have the beginnings, routinely to have imperfections in the lens of the eye. It's why, as we get older, we're not quite as confident driving after dark and doing challenging tasks. Cataract is one of the things that degrades slightly our vision from what it was when we were 22.
Now there's some health issues that can affect them too, right? Like diabetes. Why do we know why diabetes kind of increases the risk for cataracts?
Yeah, diabetes is a cause of a lot of problems in cells of the body, and we, generally speaking, elevated levels of blood sugar lead to elevated levels of sugar in other body parts, and that can lead to dysfunction in cells. And in the lens of the eye, elevated levels of blood sugar can do a number of things. Over the long term, it can cause increased clouding of the lens. And we kind of look at a lens of an eye and say, well, this patient may have diabetes based on what this lens looks like. It also can cause, in the short term, if blood sugar is very high, it can cause the lens to swell in the eye and cause the person temporarily to become nearsighted. And so it's a signal that somebody may have uncontrolled diabetes.
Now, they're also, like, I just inherited it. It's my heredity, my genes. It might be a family thing where we just get cataracts early or something like that.
You bet. Just like everything else, we try to take care of ourselves, exercise, eat right, do all the right things, but our genes are going to have a lot to do with how healthy we are, and that extends to cataracts as well, because if your parents had them at a young age, there's a little better chance that you will as well. It's not inherited directly like a dominant trait. It's more like multiple factors. But if it runs in your family, then it runs in your family.
Okay. Now, folks use steroids for all sorts of reasons, sometimes inflammation, or they're doing some sort of treatment. And some people, they grew up using them because they were athletes, so they were in the gym, and they were using those kinds of things. How does that affect the cataract?
Yeah, so there's two different kinds of steroids specifically. There's androgenic steroids that bodybuilders use and are controversial in professional athletics. And then there's corticosteroids, which are commonly used medically for anti-inflammatory purposes. And the corticosteroids are well associated with cataract development. And so when we talk about steroids, if you have a condition, an inflammatory condition, arthritis, you may be on that medication for some period of time, or some other autoimmune disease. We have nowadays so many good medications that are not steroids that it's less common than it used to be. But we still see patients who have prolonged or high dose uses of steroids that also develop certain types of cataracts.
Okay. And let me ask this one. Eye injuries, like if I get, is it like poked, or I'm in an accident, or I maybe a detached retina, or whatever it might be, what kind of injuries are going to make my cataracts more prone to develop?
That's a great question, and it is a common cause. So injury to the eye will mechanically disrupt the lens. Just damaging it will cause it to have dysfunction, and then those cells, anytime something perturbs their homeostasis, if you will, their perfect sort of functioning, you have the potential for clouding to occur in the lens of the eye. And so a direct injury is one way to do it, and also repair of injury. So a retinal detachment surgery, particularly if we put gas inside the eye, which a few unfortunate people are familiar with because they've been through it, is a cause of cataract to form. About 80% of those eyes will develop a cataract fairly quickly afterwards. The good news about cataracts, of course, is that we have good treatments, and ultimately we fix the problem permanently by replacing the lens of the eye.
Right. And a couple other ones I want to talk about, eye diseases that can maybe cause that, and also smoking, something we can certainly prevent.
You bet. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. So smoking absolutely leads to dysfunction in cells. We see it in all parts of the body, and it contributes to cataract formation and a variety of other diseases. Some rare, some common, can contribute to cataract formation. So.
And we talked about age. We're all living longer, and maybe is the lens just was never meant to last that long? Is that one of the reasons why we have so many people have to get those cataract surgeries in their 80s or whatever it might be?
Yeah, and earlier. I mean, 70 is the new 50. If you look at in the village, the way people live their lives, it's just wonderful and inspiring to see so many healthy people. The number of your age doesn't matter. It's how you feel and how healthy you are. Take care of your body; it'll serve you. But our body knows our age, and the lens knows the the number of years it's passed through. So, those folks who are 70 and are going out, for dinner and out, driving to pickleball or driving to whatever they're doing, are going to have more trouble than they used to. And so, very often people at younger ages are now seeking cataract surgery. And of course, the other benefit we have when we do cataract surgery by replacing the lens of the eye is that we have these new fancy lens implants that help you see better than you did before.
Right, and that's the amazing part. There are so many varietals, I guess, of the lenses you can put in there. There's kind of the standard one maybe that Medicare covers and that kind of thing, but you can also, on top of that, get like the near vision and far vision ones in there, so I can throw these away finally.
Yeah. Everybody's different, and there are different technologies that suit different people, but you're absolutely right. Folks who've worn glasses their whole life, they may have said in the past, well, I don't want to have LASIK surgery. I'm not that bothered by my glasses. But now you've got to have surgery because we got to fix your cataract. And so it's just a question of which lens you want. And yes, there's cost involved in that.
Sure.
In many cases, insurance doesn't cover the cost of something more than the basic lens implant. But for a lot of people, if they can afford it, it's a wonderful opportunity to not just fix a problem, but to make them function better than they ever did.
Okay.
And I can't make myself taller or magically bring my hair back, but giving myself better vision is something I can do for myself when I undergo cataract surgery.
And when someone comes into your office and they're saying, hey, is it something obvious you see in a simple routine eye exam? Hey, it looks like we have some clouding here. Or is it usually something that they say, hey, I'm having some issues in terms of clarity?
Some of both. And typically we do surgery when it's starting to interfere with activities of daily living. So if you're noticing that you're having more trouble driving after dark, if you're noticing you're having trouble with fine print, if you're noticing that low contrast, environments like seeing in dim light is more difficult than it used to be, glare from bright objects, bright sources, sunlight, those are all symptoms that cataracts are developing. And you don't have to have surgery at the earliest sign of this. It's when it starts to limit you, when you start to say, I'm not sure I want to go to that poker tournament tonight because I don't want to, drive after dark. Or
but it's a progressive thing, though. It's not going to get better. It's not going to stop. It's going to be a slow kind of a degradation, right?
Sadly, we don't have a non-surgical treatment for cataracts, and they accelerate at different rates in different people. So it may not, be an overnight thing, but for most people, cataracts do progress eventually.
And when you get a surgery, you do one eye and then you wait a little while, do another, and that's just a precautionary thing?
Yeah, so it brings up the question of risk. Risk is part of every surgery there is. And in cataract surgery, and this is general statistic for the population, serious complications are thankfully rare. They're about 1 in 1,000, and that includes things like retinal detachment, infection, bleeding that could be serious. And not all those people go blind from the complication, but they have the potential to if we couldn't control the problem. So 1 in 1,000 for each of these things is a real risk. And then there are less serious complications, about 1 in 100. And when I say less serious, I mean things that couldn't blind you, but certainly would be frustrating, whether it's delayed healing or needing additional surgery or a droopy eyelid or double vision or something that, it doesn't blind you, but it's sure frustrating to have. Right. Those are also possible with surgery. So when we do surgery, we separate the two eyes, typically by a week or a couple of weeks, sometimes more, in order to make sure that the first eye is doing well.
Okay. Before we go, it's the 50th anniversary this year you guys are celebrating over at Harvard.
Harvard Eye is 50 years old this year. Isn't that incredible? Started in 1974 with an office in Laguna Beach. Dr. Roger Ohanessian and his wife Eileen, who kind of ran the practice. Now we're 20 doctors spread over 3 locations, covering all the specialties in eye care. But we still have that, or try to have that, small doctors I won't say it's a small doctor's office experience because it's a pretty big office, but I will say that you know, the people care like it is a small office.
Right, right. You get the comfort, you get the treatment of a small town kind of feel, but a great advanced operation. I know you guys have the tech, that's for sure.
We do. Yeah, we do.
Dr. John Hovhannissian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Michael, it's great to see you again.
You're watching This Day. We'll be right back.